everybody, it is Sensei Chat number 44. It's Friday, June 16th, and what a week it has been. I have news, so much news. We're gonna talk about the Bitcoin ETF. We're going to talk about Swift. We're going to talk about ISO. I have huge XRP updates, new CBDC pilot launched. I got quant updates. I got XDC updates. I got updates from the Digital Asset Committee that was on Tuesday. I got some clips from that. We're going to talk about Prometheus. There's so much going on in this chat. So there's just a lot of different things we're going to bounce around from. Let's go ahead and get into it. Appreciate everyone being here. What's up, King? What's up, Tony? Let's start. If you guys are moving along with me, I think it's right. Is this it? Yes, this is it, I think. Let me see. I got too many chats open. All right, cool. Let's do it. All right, so Ripple and Persist are partnering with Colombia's Banco República in conjunction with Ministerio TIC to pilot use cases will embrace Colombia's high-value payment systems. This is Ripple working with the Bank of Colombia on a CBDC, guys, okay? The pilot program will evaluate high-value payments use cases using Ripple's CBDC platform based on the core technology of the XRP ledger. Ripple, the leader in enterprise blockchain and crypto solutions, announced today that in collaboration with Banco de República, Colombia's central bank, to explore blockchain use cases. The central bank, in conjunction with the Ministry of Information, Communications and Technologies, also known as MINTIC, will pilot use cases that will enhance Colombia's high-value payment system using Ripple's CBDC platform, powered by the XRP ledger and XRP, an energy-efficient open-source blockchain. You guys all know that. Under the guidance of the Directorate of Digital Government, MINTIC, the project will run through the end of 2023. The goal of the third phase of MINTIC's experimentation with blockchain will be to educate national and territorial public entities through interactive and collaborative real-world application experiments of how blockchain technology, unparalleled speed, scalability, and transparency can revolutionize payment systems and data management. That was a sentence and a half. Oh my goodness. Develop these with key capabilities. Ripple CBDC platform, an end-to-end solution for central banks, will be examined and tested in controlled environment without compromising public resources. This is another one of the central banks that they're working with. Ripple's come out and said they're working with over 20 already. It's good to see some of these other pop-ups so we know who they're working with. And then you see there's been a lot of news about this week. Also, you have Stuart Alderati here talking about Judge Torres and the Hinman emails. I wanted to play this for you because it is interesting. Let me play this.
Is this what you expected to uncover in these documents?
Yeah, now we got access to these documents last year and the judge has seen them. The new news here is the judge on her 7th court order relating to these documents said that the public deserves to see these documents. But yes, this corroborates a number of very important, relevant things or things that are relevant to our case. One, that when the law is faithfully applied, when you faithfully apply the statute in the famous 1946 Supreme Court case known as Howey, the SEC has no case. Two, it confirms that the SEC fostered regulatory confusion in the marketplace. They knew the marketplace was confused, and they took steps to deliberately aggravate that confusion. And I think that goes to what's known as the fair notice defense, that folks of ordinary intelligence did not have fair notice about how the SEC was going to apply what they believe to be the law to this industry. And lastly, we shouldn't forget that in addition to suing Ripple, the SEC in December 2020, I think as a last-ditch effort to bring maximum leverage on the company, sued our founder and our CEO personally, alleging that they were reckless in allowing Ripple to distribute the digital asset XRP in the way they did. And to establish recklessness, you have to prove that the individual either knew or recklessly disregarded what the law was. And we've now confirmed that is an outrageous allegation, because at best, the SEC were debating internally what the law was. At worst, they knew what the law was, and they distorted the law to create this confusion in the marketplace.
All right, so that's good. You see Ripple's head counsel come out and talk about it. Also, let's get into this. Ripple partner TerraPay discussing their capabilities reach on their wallets. This is actually really a big deal, guys. They have billions of wallets and bank accounts that they're connected to. TerraPay is gigantic. I'm going to show you their website here in a second, but this is a gigantic Ripple partner that not many people talk about. Let me play this for you.
We speak, I think we are able to settle funds in 68 currencies. Oh, that's great.
Okay, it is very hard to this man's accent is very strong. It is very hard to understand him. Someone come in and mute. Let's go ahead and mute when we come in. I'm gonna mute you, Tony. No worries. There you go. All right, so this guy's accent is very strong, guys, but there is closed captioning down here if you need it, okay?
All the points that you already alluded to, all our transactions actually get processed. 97% of our transactions get processed inside a minute. Our uptime is 99.97%. We as an entity are either regulated or have the necessary approvals in 26 geographies. We are enabling almost 203 send countries and 104 receiving countries.
203 countries and 104 receiving countries.
We are having access to rather powering almost 1.5 billion wallets, 4.5 billion bank accounts. So the entire ecosystem is in place. And the way the tech architecture is, it's a complete plug and play. My partners can do one handshake, he gets access to the entire ecosystem. At the same time, it's very modular. So if some partner joins us, but he wants to use us only for, say, 20 countries, he can do. The 104 is the entire bouquet of services. It's very parameterizable, it's very scalable. In today's day and age, I think I need to give my partners the comfort that you please go ahead, design the user experience basis our infrastructure. You take care of your customers, we take care of you. Right. In addition to that, what I spoke about, the liquidity, the operational aspects, all of it, we have a very efficient customer service model. And these are all in a self-service mode, all on very agile and nimble APIs. Partners can consume it, render it across whatever form factors that they want. If you look at it right from sender to transaction processing to penny validation, liquidity management, forex rates, settlement and reconciliation, and then finally the customer service. It works. What we have seen, mostly fintechs tend to, and again, I'm not trying to demean anyone out here, but we just try to focus on a transaction processing, which is simply put tech. But there's more to it, to a transaction processing than just simple tech. And that is what helps TerraPay stand out from what the other conventional methods of money remittance or cross-border payments that exist today.
Agreed. All right, so look how big TerraPay is, guys. So here's their website, terrapay.com. If you scroll down, make your money move easily and globally. 7.5 billion bank accounts. Isn't there only 7.5 billion people in the world? I guess people have multiple bank accounts. I don't know. It's a lot of bank. So it's like a bank account for every person in the world is what they cover. And then they have 2.1 billion mobile wallets, 121 partnerships, 208 countries, 110 receive countries, 27 licensing and regulatory approvals, and 97% transaction delivered in under 1 minute. So they are using Ripple and XRP to facilitate this, but this is a gigantic partnership that not many people know about or not many people talk about. So I just wanted to point this out in case if you're new to the space and you might not know about this partnership, it is a dandy one. It's a big one, okay? Here's Chris Larson in under a minute talking about how to be a good actor in crypto, or how to something like that. Sorry, he's talking about how crypto can be used for good, and he's talking about emissions. Oh God, I can't remember. Sorry.
So a lot of people ask, how can crypto be used for good? My name is Chris Larson, and this is Crypto in a Minute.
Energy emissions.
There's lots of ways crypto can be used for good. One of the exciting possibilities that I'll put out there is using blockchain technology, crypto technology, to create better
credit markets.
Credit markets. Now, carbon credit markets are essential for our fight on climate, but they've been a mess, right? People describe them less as markets, more like flea markets. And we think by using blockchain technology, you could make carbon credit markets radically transparent. Why is that important? That means anybody that's working to sequester carbon. Think about poor farmers in Africa. Change the way they use their soils, suddenly they capture more carbon. They can sell that. And in today's world where there's no transparency, they're being taken advantage of. In a transparent market using NFTs and blockchain, they could see what those prices are and always be assured of getting a fair deal.
All right, cool. All right, and then so this is actually, I've shown you this like 10 or 20 second clip from this Graham Bright, I think is this gentleman's name. This is, oh God, what's her name? She's kind of a Bitcoin maxi, but she does interviews, I can't remember, Lepon or something. I can't remember this woman's name, I apologize. But here's the full clip, and the reason I brought this full clip is because not only it has that 20-second part at the end where he talks about XRP maybe going over the Swift network, I want to play the whole clip for you because I've never seen the full clip of this, and I wanted to play this whole thing for you. Let me play this.
There's a discussion surrounding crypto replacing SWIFT. So we did speak earlier where you mentioned that it's not necessarily about replacing SWIFT, it's about complementing it. So let's get some more information on this.
Okay. I used to work for SWIFT. I was SWIFT for 20 years, so SWIFT is flowing through my veins. SWIFT is the preeminent messaging system for the financial industry, which covers, say, payments, FX, trade, in terms of securities, etc., NOSTA reconciliations, etc. What we're looking with the crypto, though, is where SWIFT would have a store and forward system for most of its payment transactions, where you need service level agreements that in a certain time I will do something, but payment turns up at a certain time during the day. Here we're looking at the new network styles, which allow instant, real-time movement of the funds and visibility of those funds as well. So we would not have a situation where banks need to come back to you and say, have my funds arrived? It's 3 days later. I need to find out or find query messages moving around the network. It's nothing like that. I don't believe Ripple is going to replace SWIFT. Ripple is one of the complementary networks, which is going to allow those institutions who need real time to make use of that. And I think we're also seeing that SWIFT are changing their network capability so that real-time will be a possibility as well. But we may also see Ripple XRP moving across the SWIFT network as a currency when we're perhaps using something like FX.
And remember, guys, the FX market is $7.5 trillion a day, right? If you stop using correspondent banking for the FX market and you started using something like Ripple and XRP, not only would you have full visibility of your funds, they would be there in 3 to 5 seconds, and it would save you a ton of money. Right? Imagine most of these transactions, banks take anywhere from 2 to 5%, the correspondent banking system. So if you can imagine, if you're doing $1 million in an FX payment and you get charged 2 to 5%, you're losing $20,000 to $50,000 right off the bat, and that's a small payment for these guys of $1 million. So can you imagine $1 billion where you're losing 20 to 50 million? They really do need to work on some of these fees and how they're operating in the correspondent banking system. And remember, 4 to 5% of international payments end up failing at some leg too. Being able to move to a fully instant system, not only would you have full visibility over all your funds, but you could start offering new services to customers, and that's what everybody wants. And so we talked about this already. All right, so now we're going to talk about, so this was from the Banking Digital Asset Subcommittee here. This is Jeremy Allaire answering a question. During his testimony, Jeremy Allaire highlighted that the dollar is at a crossroads and the currency competition is now technology competition, stressing that the primacy of the US dollar in geopolitical affairs is being increasingly challenged. Let me play this for you, 50 seconds.
Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, we went through an intense hype cycle and then a dramatic crash in the development of the web. There were total losses, scams, and frauds. A combination of proactive policy and private sector development led to a period that made America the uncontested technology leader. We're in a similar moment today, but we don't have the luxury of time. The tech capability gap that existed then has now been closed by China. The dollar is at a crossroads, and currency competition is now technology competition. I ask all of you, as members of Congress, to consider this moment. Ask what value system we want to enshrine in law, and how do we safely and deliberately unleash the creative forces of US-led technology innovation.
All right, cool. And then also we have this clip here. This is the current regulatory patchwork isn't working for crypto. We shouldn't trust Gary Gensler in the SEC. And then let me play, this is John Rose. Let me play this for you.
Talking point that Gensler's approval of this one special purpose broker-dealer license does not mean that the current system is working. Why? Because an ATS cannot facilitate trading for any unregistered securities not offered under a valid exemption. Additionally, Gensler and the Democrats, and apparently Mr. Kaplan, allege that nearly all...
Okay, so just to catch you up, guys, if you haven't watched any of these clips, so basically you have Jeremy Allaire, you have the CEO of Ava Labs, and you had 2 other people. So there's 4 regular people on the platform, Jeremy Allaire, the head of Ava Labs, and I can't remember the other 2, but then you had this guy named Kaplan. And Kaplan basically is a Gary Gensler plant. And so Kaplan, this is what he's talking about. Kaplan alleges nearly all tokens are unregistered securities. So they have a megaphone in the witness box who's pushing the democratic views on cryptos are all securities and this and that, where Republicans are trying to push to changing laws. That's how I see this right now. You have a lot of Democrats bowing down, and Republicans are really the ones that are out here trying to push all this stuff forward. But when he says Kaplan, he's talking about one of the witnesses, okay? And I'm going to show you who this guy is and catch you up on Prometheus, his company, who got a broker-dealer license, but it's useless. You can't do anything with it. Let me play this.
All tokens are unregistered securities, so this approval does nothing for retail investors and the general public. Mr. Garrison, isn't it correct that there currently aren't any registered digital asset securities with real customer demand and liquidity? For example, can an ATS offer Solana or Cardano, which the SEC has recently alleged are unregistered securities, to retail non-accredited investors on its ATS today?
No, they cannot.
And Mr. Garrison, would the outcome be different under the market structure legislation that we have coming forward?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Kaplan right here, okay? This is Jeremy Allaire. This is the head of AVAX. And I can't remember these guys, but all 4 of these guys are really good. This is the plant right here on the right side, okay?
So the legislation would allow an ATS to list and trade structured digital assets alongside payment stablecoins, alongside digital commodities. Each of those would be regulated under different regimes, but an ATS regulated by the SEC would allow all those products to trade.
Thank you. Mr. Garrison, can an ATS currently offer both digital asset securities and digital asset commodities alongside each other on the same platform for retail trading?
No, they cannot.
And would the outcome be different under the market structure legislation?
Yes, it would be.
Thank you. Mr. Garrison, Prometheum has been approved to custody digital assets under a special purpose broker-dealer framework that the SEC issued in 2020. Under current law, digital assets may be classified as securities or commodities. Can a special purpose broker-dealer custody both digital asset securities and digital asset commodities on behalf of retail investors?
No.
Mr. Garrison, given this fact, what impact, if any, does the SEC's approval of this special purpose broker-dealer license have on retail traders?
Not a significant impact.
And Mr. Garrison, the SEC has indicated that they expect digital assets to be registered by a promoter or, quote, a promoter, sponsor, or other third party that, quote, provides essential managerial efforts that affect the success of the enterprise, close. The problem is that certain digital assets are open source, peer-to-peer digital currencies that are transferred through a decentralized public ledger that is maintained by a network of computers operated by individuals who, apart from possibly transferring digital assets to one another at some point in their lives, may never interact. Take Dogecoin. Mr. Garrison, who exactly is the SEC expecting would come in and register Dogecoin?
I do not know.
Mr. Garrison, in 2021, SEC Chair Gensler said regarding the regulation of digital assets, quote, there are some gaps in this space. We need additional congressional authorities to prevent transactions, products, and platforms from falling between regulatory cracks. Close. He now says the securities laws are clear, that he doesn't need additional authority from Congress. Mr. Garrison, do you agree with Chair Gensler version 1, who we might call Dr. Jekyll, that he needs more authority from Congress to regulate crypto? Or do you agree with Chair Gensler version 2, Mr. Hyde, that the federal security laws are 100% clear and no relief is necessary to regulate digital asset securities and crypto platforms seeking to support them?
I'm not sure that I agree with either version. I believe the SEC has authority to regulate digital assets that are sold pursuant to investment contracts in a clearer way than they have. But I do also disagree that the securities law's application to the sale of digital assets is certainly not clear.
And shifting gears, Mr. Allaire, given the Federal Reserve's incompetence during the most recent turmoil in the banking sector, are you confident that they will be able to regulate stablecoin issuers under this bill?
Thank you for the question, Congressman Rose. I believe that the bill does a very good job of very clearly establishing the core standards that are important for a stablecoin to function. And so I believe Congress is doing its job in identifying that.
Gentleman's time.
All right, that was John Rose, right? And so also you have Tom Emmer here who spoke. These clips are important, right? Because this is the conversation happening in the U.S., and we do need the U.S. to get its shit together and pass some legislation so we don't have all of this all these question marks about what is a security, what isn't a security, how do they come to that. There really needs to be a new test that's designed for digital assets so something can start maybe off as a security and branch into or grow into a decentralized network, right? Because a lot of this is that, right? A lot of it starts out very centralized, and as the network gets built out, it becomes more decentralized, right? So you need a new test. So let me play this Tom Emmer clip, and then I'll get to the Prometheus stuff.
The majority whip of the House, Mr. Emmer, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Chairman McHenry for holding this important hearing today, and I want to thank all the witnesses for your testimony. We're convening to discuss a remarkable piece of draft legislation on digital asset market structure. It's a product of joint committee collaboration, which here in Congress,
yeah, it plays a little funny. It's not my computer, sorry.
This doesn't happen often, and is drafted thoughtfully and intelligently. I want to commend Chairman McHenry, Chairman Thompson of the Agriculture Committee, and both of their teams for all their hard work. Crypto will thrive with or without the United States. What we seek to do today in discussing this draft is to establish if the next iteration of the internet is going to be designed by Americans and for Americans, or if it's going to emulate the values of some other country. It must be the former, not the latter. American digital asset innovators and entrepreneurs desperately need regulatory clarity, regulatory certainty, regulatory confidence, and regulatory competitiveness. The 4 C's. Instead, as a product of Congress succeeding its power to the administrative state since the mid-90s, this administration has been able to abuse its regulatory power toward the digital asset ecosystem to the detriment of the American people. We have an SEC chair who flip-flops before Congress, telling us last year that he needs legislation to regulate the digital asset industry, and telling us this year that he has changed his mind. He actually does have the authority in his own mind, the statutory authority to regulate this space. I would disagree, but obviously this sends mixed signals. The SEC and the CFTC, the two potential primary regulators, are constantly at odds on what digital assets are commodities or securities. This sends, again, mixed signals to stakeholders. This administration weaponized the recent...
Let me see if I can fix this. I apologize. This shouldn't be like that, but this played regular.
Asset in...
Let me try to see if I can fix this real quick. Sorry. There you go.
Again, mixed signals to stakeholders. This administration weaponized the recent bank crisis to debank the digital asset community, deploying an Operation Choke Point-style assault on this legal industry. We have enforcement actions almost every week alleging different tokens are securities or different actions fall under SEC jurisdiction. Yet the SEC has failed to produce a single rule or regulation to help the unique digital asset industry come into compliance. A failure of the administrative state. Congress needs to step into the driver's seat and pass a bill that provides regulatory clarity, certainty, confidence, and competitiveness. I believe the McHenry-Thompson bill can get us there. It sets up a dual registration framework that allows projects to crowdfund and gives tokens a mechanism to move from issuance to decentralization. However, the way it is currently drafted conflicts philosophically with how I consider this asset class. Fundamentally, I don't believe digital assets themselves are ever securities. Instead, I believe digital assets can be obtained through a securities contract. The distinction between investment contract and the asset of the investment contract underpins my 8 years of legislative work in this space, and it's a basis of my bill, the Securities Clarity Act, which I was fortunate to have Mr. Thompson on as a co-sponsor last Congress. Primarily, while I know this is not the author's intention, my concern is that the McHenry-Thompson bill as drafted currently sets up a framework where one fungible digital asset can be both a security and a commodity at the same time. On its face, that is not possible. For one thing to have two distinct classifications, that's not possible. That's because the SEC does not clearly distinguish the asset from the investment contract. In current law, securities inherently include commodities. Let's go back to Howey. The orange groves themselves were obviously a commodity, but they were obtained through a securities contract. Nonetheless, the SEC considered those orange groves a security rather than the asset of a security, but it did not consider all other orange groves a security. The SEC does this today with digital assets, which, if continued, makes it impossible for digital assets to be in compliance with the law and to be used for their utility. Chair Gensler gave a speech just last week discussing his belief that the asset of the investment contract is itself the investment contract. Completely bogus. For the text to achieve what the authors wanted to achieve, which is to enable a framework in which a project can crowdfund and still create an asset that can be used for its utility, then the text needs to clearly assert concepts established in the Securities Clarity Act, that a token is separate and distinct from an investment contract. This will allow the bill to provide the necessary regulatory clarity, regulatory certainty, regulatory confidence, and regulatory competitiveness to ensure the next iteration of the internet is designed by Americans for Americans. Again, thanks to our witnesses for being here.
All right, so that was Tom Emmer, the majority whip. He whips all the votes in, I think he's in the House. And so you have also for Mr. Mann, you have the U.S. House panel to vote on cryptocurrency bill in the upcoming weeks, right? So there's a lot of things actually happening in Congress. Just so you know, if you're not from the U.S., how this works is usually a bill goes through the House of Representatives. It needs at least, I think, 60% of support to go into the Senate. If it gets approved in the Senate, it goes to the House. Excuse me, if it's approved in the House, it goes to the Senate. There's 100 members of the Senate. 16 members need to vote for it to go to the president's desk, and then the president would need to sign the bill. The president could decide to veto the bill, and then it would get kicked back down to Congress and maybe have to get reworked. But I just wanted to go over that with you. A key House Republican lawmaker said on Tuesday that he intends to hold a committee vote on a comprehensive bill to establish a regulatory framework for cryptocurrency products in the coming weeks, guys. Weeks, not months or years. Representative Patrick McHenry, chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, said he expects to put a bill forward to the panel to consider after lawmakers return from July 11th, right? So we might have some type of bill going through Congress in July, guys. This is getting really good. We want to see this. He says, Patrick McHenry said, I intend for this committee to mark up some form of this legislation when we return from July 4th recess, he said on a hearing on Tuesday. McHenry has been leading his efforts by some Republicans in Congress to pass a bill establishing clear rules in for the crypto industry. A discussion draft put forward earlier this month put McHenry and others would clarify responsibilities for overseeing crypto products by regulators and would give a pathway for crypto companies to come in and register with those agencies. I will keep you up to date with what's going on here, and I will let you know. Also, guys, Ripple to expand into Europe on the back of Mika. If you missed this, I've been posting some stuff in the chat, but if you missed it, this is why we come to Sensei Chats, right? This is on July 14th. This is 2 days ago, okay? Ripple sustains global expansion despite pressure from the U.S. SEC lawsuit with a view to penetrate deeper into Europe as MiCA bill becomes law. Ripple continues to push for expansion on a global scale despite facing multiple-year legal tussle with the U.S. SEC. The regulatory uncertainty in the U.S. has catalyzed Ripple's penchant for global expansion as the technology company seeks to penetrate deeper into Europe in the back of MiCA regulations. Cindy Young, Ripple's managing director for UK and Europe, highlighted these expansion initiatives in a recent interview with Money 2020 event in Europe in this month. Anthony Welfare, a CBDC advisor at Ripple, called attention to the interview in a tweet. So here's the tweet, and then it goes, here's the plans. Welfare pointed out Young's remarks pertaining to Ripple's extended efforts towards digital currency and CBDC developments. According to Young, Ripple has continued to expand its offering to accommodate digital assets in central bank digital currencies. Recall that the Crypto Basic disclosed last month. Ripple rolled out its CBDC platform on May 18th. It says it's really a number of different currencies and CBDCs are all going to be coexisting, and that kind of ability to interoperate, to go in and go out, is going to be very important, right? And then so here's Ripple's plans. They intensify going into MiCA. Besides CBDC initiatives, Young also emphasized the importance of markets and crypto assets. That's the MiCA bill, or MiCA, whatever you want to say. Regulation for creating a fertile ground for Ripple's expansion into Europe. Recall that 27 European Union finance ministers unanimously voted to pass MiCA, and then that happened on May 31st. Even prior to the approval of MiCA, Ripple had been making attempts towards expanding its reach into Europe. Crypto Basic last reported in November that the firm was seeking an additional operational license in Ireland as part of its effort to expand into Europe. MiCA has encouraged Ripple to intensify its European expansion. Speaking at MiCA regulation and the impact of clear legislation in Europe, Young noted, I think that's where we've seen so much bigger mainstream take up and real benefits from crypto utility being realized. Throughout clear regulation, that is impossible. I see that the first steps in getting more mainstream adoption. So what is this going to do? This is why the US is running around with their pants on fire, because they know Europe is just months, literally 6 months away from having full regulation for 27 countries in Europe. That is why the US is starting to hurry up this whole thing. And that's why it's because right now their AI and crypto are mutually important, right? But they're going after to try to legislate crypto first before AI, which is good for us because bringing in the US, a lot of countries are waiting for the US to decide what they want to do, and then they'll adopt the US laws just because a lot of trade is still done with the US dollar. Also, this is just a Ripple partner, Banco Rendimento, is working with Brazil's Pix to allow customers to pay from Pix as they travel across Latin America. Here is the article right here. So Pix is another Ripple partner. InSwitch and Banco Rendimento joined forces to enable Brazilians worldwide to make payments with Pix. InSwitch, a global leader in embedded finance technology, in collaboration with Banco Rendimento, is one of the most dynamic banks in Brazil, have come together to launch a major offering of payment methods, allowing Brazilians who travel abroad to use the Pix system for purchase and payments if they're in Brazil or throughout Latin America. Pix has become a preferred payment method in Brazil, which has another 150 million registered users and over 2 billion transactions processed in the first 9 months alone. In March 2023, the system recorded over 3 billion monthly transactions, and the amount moved reached a record high of 1.28 trillion real, not dollars, real. So this is about 5 to 1. So for every dollar, you get about 5 real. So I'd say this is 250 billion US dollars, okay? That's a lot of money. The expansion of Pix in Latin America will enable more individuals and businesses to conduct fast, secure, and efficient online financial transactions. Additionally, it will offer a solution of 3 main current difficulties in cross-border payments. It says instant and effective currency conversion, transaction security and traceability, user friendliness for Brazilians worldwide. It also presents a lower financial transactions tax of only 0.38 compared to 5.38 for credit card purchases. So saving 5% going in this way, guys. That's why this is blowing up in Brazil. So this is good to see. So this is more talking about regulatory for MiCA. There's a lot of stuff going on with that. This is from the Digital Pound Foundation. Insight from Nalin Lod, Accenture's Metaverse Continuum Business Group, on how the company contributed towards the project's Mbridge and the deeper understanding of the wholesale CBDC. And then you can watch the latest webinar here, and I'll have this in my notes, but let me just play this 53 seconds and we will move on.
This project is a great example of how our unique cross-functional global team of experts that span CBDC strategy, policy, and technology, combined with overall global program management, enabled us to support BIS, the 4 central banks, and 20 commercial banks in achieving their stated outcomes within the planned timeframe. More specifically, Accenture created a business strategy report and also shared our experience on what a platform governance and operational rulebook might look like for this project. We also led the overall coordination activities for when we were doing the actual real value transactions. On a personal level, it was one of the most interesting projects to be part of from the very beginning to the publication of the final report. I thoroughly enjoyed working with everyone and learned a huge amount from everyone.
All right, cool. And I'll paste the report in the notes if you guys want to take a look at it. It's right here. I'm not going to get into it right now because we are on a time thing here. So SAP plus Ripple and AWS, by connecting SAP HANA cloud platform and the SAP payment engine with Ripple's network, nearly instant transfers can be achieved. So just more partnerships. This is basically going, I think it's Canadian flag, and I think this is Germany. If it's not Germany, don't shoot the messenger. I'm not good with flags. Overseas payment process took 20 seconds instead of 3 days, right? Just more things being built out. This is basically the plumbing, right, for the new financial system. That's what all this is. This is Paul Grewal. He says, we don't even have clarity from our own government on whether ETH is a security. One regulator says no, another regulator says yes, and yet other refuses to answer the question and testify before Congress in the past time to fix that. So here's Paul Grewal, 35 seconds, we'll move on.
For Coinbase, and I think for the entire industry, however a court ultimately resolves these issues across a range of products and tokens, we will finally have clarity and we will be able to order our business accordingly and appropriately. And while we are very confident we have the better view of how to define an investment contract and that all of the allegations in the SEC's complaint are incorrect or a misread of the securities laws, one way or the other, we're going to get clarity. And for Coinbase and for the industry, that's a win in and of itself.
All right. Let's keep it going, guys. Let's keep it going. There's just so much in this chat. I still have so much to go over here with you. Okay, so Prometheum. So I don't know if you guys have seen what's going on here. So I was talking to you about Kaplan before. This is Kaplan, right? Where is he at? This is Kaplan right here, Aaron Kaplan. So he's a CEO or the co-CEO of Prometheum. And Prometheum, since he was in this hearing, they started asking questions about what the connections were about an American company and Prometheum in bed with the CCP. Take this with a grain of salt, right? We don't know exactly what the connections are here, but people are digging things up left and right. And it does look like Prometheus got they got the broker-dealer license. They were the first ones to be admitted with a broker-dealer license. They can't really do much with the broker-dealer license, but there's a lot of former SEC people and people that used to work for the government that work at Prometheus, and so it does look like an inside kind of, hey, we're going to help out our fellow workers, but let me play this for you.
Recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to quote from an article in the Wall Street Journal last week entitled, "Crypto Communism Has a New Meaning. China Seeks to Infiltrate the U.S. Financial System, and SEC and FINRA Seem Oblivious." And in this article, it talks about Prometheum as an American company, but according to SEC filings, is a strategic partner and joint venture with Shanghai Wansheng Blockchain Incorporated and its affiliate Hashkey. The former company is a spin-off of Wansheng Group, which has deep ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Wansheng Group was founded in 1969, and the founder passed recently. An official press release commented that the comrade always listened to the party and followed the party. That group is now led by that gentleman's son, Lu Wangding, and the press release is almost identical by saying that he will carry forward the practice of the deceased founder and always listen to the party and follow the party. I can tell you from being on the Chinese Select Committee, that is a chilling statement when we have an American company that's in bed with the Chinese. Mr. Kaplan, what percentage of your company is owned by a Chinese entity?
I think approximately 20%.
20% of it. How much influence do they have over your company?
They have the same rights as other shareholders.
How much access do they have to intellectual property?
Wang Zheng has no access to any Prometheum code or technology or system, server, or customer data.
If they're on the board of directors and have access to all of your data from the standpoint of being an investor, how do you answer that question like that?
The bylaws were changed in the filing that was filed with the SEC on November 2021, and they basically limit who has access to data, including directors.
Okay, where's the data stored right now?
In the United States.
So this guy has an answer for everything. But so people are starting to dig up information on this. Like Cowboy Crypto put this, he's a Prometheum partner with Anchorage Digital, who happens to have the first ever federal crypto banking charter in March 2021, right after Ripple and Brett Garlinghouse and Chris Larson lawsuit. Guess who invested in Anchorage Digital? Apollo. Jay Clayton happened to take a lead independent director role the month before Anchorage partnered with Prometheus, and only 2 months after filing the lawsuit. So more shadiness out of Jay Clayton. And then you also have key Anchorage investors, A16Z, Apollo, BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, Kraken, and PayPal. No wonder they got what they needed, right? When you see BlackRock here, yeah, and Goldman, that's Gary's former boss, right? Goldman Sachs. So of course they got the license that they wanted. But these questions are being asked. And so this is actually Mike Flood. This is 4 minutes. And then this is the last clip I have of what's called, guys. I know it's kind of drawn out, but these conversations are going on and it does impact the crypto market here in the US. And so it is important to know what's happening here.
For 5 minutes.
Let me play this.
I'd like to start to read a question from a comment letter that Prometheum sent in response to the SEC's December 2020 special purpose broker-dealer framework. Quote, the definition of a digital asset security as used in the proposal is a digital asset that meets the definition of a security under the federal securities laws. This definition puts a burden on the industry to determine which digital assets are securities. As a result, we believe the clarity is needed to understand the regulatory framework they must comply with, end quote. That was in a letter dated April 26 from Prometheum, specifically signed by Benjamin S. Kaplan, co-CEO of the company. I offer this into the record without objection. This concern, which Prometheum themselves raised in 2020, probably sounds familiar for those who track this committee closely. It is the exact same concern we've heard from witnesses in front of this committee before. How can a broker-dealer register if they don't know which assets are a security and which are not? Further, it makes the same argument that other firms have made that the lack of clarity from the SEC puts an undue burden on the industry. Mr. Kaplan, in your testimony, you were very confident that no new legislation is needed in the digital asset space to clarify this question. What has changed between the date of this letter in 2021 and when your firm called for clarity and now? What has changed?
Over the 2+ years since that time, there's been additional enforcement actions and statement by the SECs, which have clarified any questions that we had in regards to the designation of a digital asset as a security.
Mr. Kaplan, Prometheum's website says that Prometheum ADS supports, quote, many tokens that mostly trade on crypto exchanges, end quote. I'd like to dig in on that just a little bit. Can Prometheum customers trade in Ether? If your answer is yes, please explain how.
Not currently.
Can Prometheum customers trade in Bitcoin? If your answer is yes, please explain how.
No.
Just for the audience at home's benefit, Ether and Bitcoin make up more than 60% of the digital asset market. Mr. Kaplan, given that either Ether and Bitcoin make up more than 60% of the digital asset market, if the current system is working, why can't your customers trade the most popular and widely used digital assets?
Regulation and new ATSs and custodians should take a crawl, walk, run approach, and essentially they will proceed to add additional assets and abilities as time goes on. I'd like to point out when the...
I'm going to reclaim my time. Mr. Kaplan, did Prometheum receive any additional exemptive relief from the SEC that has not been publicly shared?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. Prometheum's special purpose broker-dealer license does not address the core issue. There is not a consistent definition of a digital asset security within current law. This point was made obvious when Chair Gensler could not say definitively whether Ether is a digital asset security when asked by Chairman McHenry in this very room a couple months ago. In other words, that same question that Prometheum themselves raised in their 2021 comment letter is still unanswered. That's why legislation is needed. That's the problem that the chairman's bill works to solve. To testify in front of our committee that your company's charter, which only allows for trading in a very small subset of assets, is evidence that no legislation is needed, just doesn't make sense. If anything, the fact that Prometheum's customers cannot trade some of the most popular digital assets is an illustration of the broader problem, Mr. Kaplan. I yield back.
All right, so that's pretty much the Prometheus mess, and I'll let you know if more information is dug up, but people are digging in, right? Today, Blockchain Assistant, or whatever, ASSN, sent FOIA requests seeking documents related to the dealings with Prometheum. People are going after this, guys, and I will keep you updated with what happens here, but also, too, Vitalik keeps showing up. Reminder, when he blasted Ripple, a suggestion of a Chinese connections, and now you have basically Vitalik Buterin has some ties to Prometheum as well, so there's all kinds of shady shit going on right now. This connects to Simpson Thatcher, Alibaba IPO. There's just a lot of weird things happening with all of this. JP Morgan's, of course, in the mix as well. Let me do
the comical when you see.
So this is him promoting. This is before the hearing. This is a minute long. I'm going to play this because this is the kind of guy that you're dealing with.
Comical when you see people like when you saw Elon Musk discussing how Bitcoin is bad for the environment. Like, what a farce. And I'm not a Bitcoin guy. I'm not. I'm a smart contract enabled blockchain network guy. So it's just sort of comical.
I'm in a few. I'm not even
exactly. Me too.
I don't even feel ashamed to say it anymore. Like I just like
no. First of all, you should not be. I honestly think what you're going to see is that Bitcoin, in theory, could be a store of value like gold, right? But people don't buy stuff with gold. It's not like I go to my pizza place and I buy pizza with gold, right? That's its own thing, and that's
you wouldn't even do it back in like the gold standard days.
No, it's nonsense. But like the other thing is when you look at Ethereum and its progeny, right? That's where I think the real innovation will occur. I think that the development of smart contract-enabled blockchains and parachain networks and really layer 2 technology and the like is where all the innovation and like the special sauce is going to happen.
All right, that's who you're dealing with, Prometheus, and they gave that guy's company the first broker-dealer license. Something's got to be off there. June 19, 2023, ISO, Bank of England, XRP. So just more documents coming out here, just talking about different things. Let me zoom in here and so you can see what's going on here. Let me get to the first sentence. It says, reflects feedback from CHAPS direct partnerships following the ECB and SWIFT CBPR Plus decisions to move their ISO 2022 migration dates from November to March of 2023. The revised timeline for real-time gross settlement and CHAPS have been designed to align with the wider global migration of payment systems to ISO and promote the successful delivery of enhanced ISO 20022 messaging, both domestically and globally. Enhanced data that will be that will be immediately supported from June 2023, removing the need for initial implementation stage. The bank will start to require the use of purpose codes and LEIS in certain specific CHAPS payments from November 2024 instead of spring 2024. It looks like England is planning to go through and start doing a lot of things in 2024, early 2024. We'll have to see how that plays out. Let me see what else is in here real quick. No, let me X this. Sorry, excuse me. And then so you also have this down here. However, many of these benefits are contingent that the data combined with these payments being successfully rich and high quality. The bank therefore needs to ensure that data enabled through CHAPS messaging is also sufficient quality and comprehensiveness, while also ensuring the implementation cost of migrating timelines and manageable for industry stakeholders. We'll have to see how all this plays out. I will keep you updated. Just in, $9 trillion asset fund BlackRock files for spot ETF, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And then $9 trillion on this post, $10 trillion on this post. So BlackRock has a lot of money, right? And so here's the United States Securities and Exchange Commission Form S1 registration statement, iShares Bitcoin Trust. And we're going to talk about this here in a little bit, but that's some big news. There's also a new financial services on June 22nd on Thursday. I'll have clips from this too and bring you all the good stuff that came out of that. The United Nations request for a proposal of implementation for interoperability payment solutions mentions Ripple. So I'll just show you this really quickly. It says, from experience of different countries, especially those where FSPs have integrated with global payment networks and international hubs such as Ripple, MFS Africa, Thunes, and TerraPay, provide a cost analysis tool allowing governments to access the cost of implementing a domestic interoperability or regional interoperability solution. So this is really cool. It's a little cost analysis tool that'll allow governments and different countries to be able to have an idea of how much it would cost to implement a domestic interoperability tool. The payment system, this is really pretty cool stuff. Things get dug up every now and then. I try to bring it to you. I can't. Yeah, there you go. Okay, cool. Let me move on. Ripple plus Al Farden Exchange, Uniteller and Thunes through Trangelo partnerships. Here is just more partnerships that are growing via, here's Ripple, Trangelo, Ripple. So you have Trangelo, Thunes, and then USC. Just more partnerships being created here left and right. And it does mention RippleNet empowers AI fodder on exchange by expanding their outreach and markets globally. Ripple is really going after the UAE in those type of areas. Carbon marketplaces on XRPL, Ripple, and Energy Web Token, decarbonizing public blockchains. So this is what this says. The crypto asset Ripple uses XRP. And you know all about that. Example 2020, Ripple partnered with Energy Web and Rocky Mountain Institute, right? So they've been working together on these carbon markets. And let me show you this. This also says, in line with Ripple's commitment to offer more efficient and scalable carbon markets, the talented team behind Thalo is building a marketplace that will bring more liquidity and greater access to pricing and market data and improve certification process to an open, opaque, slow, and siloed market by leveraging Ripple's enterprise readiness and carbon neutral XRPL's reliability at scale. Thalo is democratizing access to verified carbon credits for both institutional and retail investors to help offset their carbon footprints. This is only going to get bigger over the next 5 years, guys, and Ripple's kind of right in the middle of all these carbon credits and markets, right? And then you have Ripple in China here. This is talking about, China's draft law regulating digital currency would make it illegal for Facebook to do this for the RMB. In forging ahead with a central bank digital currency, PBOC, People's Bank of China, that's what that stands for, may also render companies like Ripple, which uses blockchain to facilitate cross-border transactions, redundant intermediaries for exchanges in renminbi. We'll have to see how this plays out too, but XRP could be a solution for all of this stuff, right? And it also says the Shanghai Hurai Bank recently announced that is working on a remittance product using Ripple for USA to China corridor, guys. So that's big news right there. Just so much happening. Ripple in India, right? It says there's no way better to send in India than Ripple, right? And this goes back to 2018. This is Ashish Birla. And then India's federal banks team up with Ripple for international payments, right? And it surpassed 200 partners and adds 13 financial institutions for customers. Just a lot of stuff happening with Ripple globally, guys. There's more news coming from Ripple than anyone else. TerraPay and MPCI International collaborate to drive seamless merchant payments via UPI-enabled QR codes, right? A lot of things happening in India. Let's keep moving through this. FedNow instant payment services have been offered mainly by fintechs until now. This is more of the same, but access to the service will be provided through the Federal Reserve FedLines network, which presently serves more than 10,000 financial institutions. Instant payment services until now have been offered mainly by fintechs. So they're telling you this, right? Until now, mainly it's been by fintechs, right? So if you want to use instant payments, real-time gross settlement systems in the FedNow system, it's going to be by fintechs like Ripple, right? That's what this is telling you. And the extent of those services have been adopted by depository institutions, and says there have been significant limitations on dollar amounts that can be transferred at the number of transactions that are permitted. So we'll just have to see how this plays out. But Ripple does have that partnership with the FedNow system, and I do think you're going to see it being used in that system. Banking innovation with Ripple, SAP, $46 trillion a year in Amazon Web Services. This is more the same. I showed you this already. Let me just keep moving here. So here, this is Temenos. This is Temenos and Ripple partner Temenos and the importance of cloud computing for banks and payments. I think these guys are like too high up in Temenos. Let me play this for you.
Exactly the trends that we're seeing as well. I think the big one that's created momentum is cloud. It's no longer a choice to wait and see, will this be secure, will it be regulated? All of that stuff has happened. And so I think what we're seeing the opportunity in the market is that banks are adopting cloud, and they're able to do it in an incremental fashion. I think as Chuck just said, so they're able to go from their existing deployment of Transact and take advantage of cloud computing for the payments deployment. And we're seeing a lot of banks that are approaching modernization in the same way. Let's deal with one issue that we have right now. It might be payments, it might be deposit, it might be commercial lending. Let's get that up and running on the cloud, prove it out to ourselves, take advantage, and then incrementally change the rest of the legacy environment. So I think we're very harmonized in terms of where we see the opportunity right now.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because we're talking now about the future, but while you were talking, my mind went back to quite a few years ago when cloud was a concept. And now it's not only a certainty, but a must-have.
100%. 100%. I think actually what we say is cloud is now mainstream and SaaS is very prevalent. So it's almost at the same level as cloud itself. But really those two topics are no longer something from the past. They're not theory anymore. They're real. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so it's all cloud computing. It's just going to get bigger and bigger. And so here's like the second part of this conversation.
Sure. So we implemented the Temenos Transact system back in January of last year, and it's gone very smoothly for us, which is what we expected. We worked hard to make sure that would happen.
Exactly.
But concurrently with that, we were also developing a private banking lending system that will allow us to do more complicated loans and disclose on them in a regulatory fashion in a way that we need to, in a way that our other systems don't. So the private banking lending system will come online in the next month or so. And then leveraging on what Phil talked about is this ability to meet us where we are in the Temenos Payment Hub to enable real-time payments with the FedNow system. We'll be running that on the cloud because we'll be able to move to that quickly, a quick implementation, and really kind of speed is of the essence. We're one of the pilot banks in the U.S. and very proud to be working with Temenos on that.
And would you like to add to that? I'm hearing staying ahead, time is of the essence.
Listen, one of the big benefits of working with fantastic partners like Commerce is that they're able to help us drive our roadmap. We're the technologists, we're the product company, these guys are the bankers. And I think that collaboration has worked very well for us because all of the work that we're doing with Chuck and the Commerce team at the moment is absolutely the stuff that's really disrupting the market in the US. So FedNow, real-time payments, instant payments, that's a very disruptive part of the business right now. And we're very proud to be working with Commerce to help us develop our capabilities in that. So again, I think it's working with partners like this allows us to stay ahead of what the needs really are in the market and to make sure that we have appropriate solutions.
All right. Temenos is just getting bigger and bigger daily. Another Ripple partner. Ripple partner SAP, New Digital, right? So this is more of these pictures here. SAP Digital APIs connecting banks via ISO 200 PAX 800 messages, plus Ripple sends payment instructions through ISO PAX 800. Standard RippleNet payment object. So this, let me just show you this. Here you go. RippleNet integrators, Temenos, Volante, D+H, Earthport, right? Visa and MasterCard fought over Earthport. Visa ended up winning that, but all these are just more connections to more banks. Digital retail space, digital APIs, Green Bank. It's showing you how your bank institution, how this would work. It's just fascinating stuff. The more stuff that kind of gets put out, the more stuff we can look at and take a look and see what's being built on, how these systems are supposed to work. It's just interesting. All right, we already talked about TerraPay, but I didn't show you this video. I want to show you this video.
To be financially literate, you needed to have a bank account and a Visa or MasterCard. No. The world has seen in emerging markets, you could have just a mobile wallet and you can do everything what we spoke about, from paying school fees, going to a restaurant, buying insurance, buying gold, doing everything what you want with a mobile wallet. It is the most dominant financial instrument in most countries. It's not the bank accounts. You look at Africa, for example, the banking penetration is less than 40%. Every household has got 1 or 2 or 3 mobile wallet instruments. They converge, they do everything in mobile wallets. You go, example, in Asia, it's the same thing. So what it brings on the forefront is mobile wallets is one of the key financial instruments for not just the underserved or the underbanked, but for the white-collared as well. You will be very surprised with that. I have colleagues in Africa who basically would get their salaries in a bank account and move the entire money from the bank account to a mobile wallet. And use that mobile wallet because it's ease. It's habitual to use the mobile wallet rather than a bank account. So it's that kind of so it's not just for the blue-collared or people who are less literate on financial services, but actually people who really do everything what they do on the financial services. So what does it bring on the table? It brings on the table a very simple position is there is a set of instruments, digital assets, who need to come mainstream. That's what Therapy has done. So what Therapy has done is connected to so we identified this as a big opportunity. We went out and started connecting to each and every mobile wallet platform in the world. So you name the mobile wallet player, be it a Bcash in Bangladesh, an M-Pesa in Kenya, a Gcash in the Philippines, you look at Orange Money in West Africa, you look at Airtel in Africa, you look at MTN in Africa. These are the largest conglomerates.
MTN in Africa. The guy talks about MTN. We know that name, don't we?
In the world, having more consumers than bankers. And we connected to each of these platforms, and then we brought those consumers on the forefront where they can receive cross-border payments the most agile way, the most compliant way, and the most cost-effective way. So if
I thought that clip was good. I like how he mentions MTN there, a mobile wallet provider in, what's it called, in Africa. All right, so we got this. Let's keep it going. Active blockchain projects in the United States. And so I just thought this was a cool thing to have if anyone was interested. I'll have this in my notes. I'm not going to go through each one of those, but there's just some interesting information. FedNow equals scalable without limits and throughput, right? So it's talking about for payments up to 100 grand, FedNow will charge 4.5 cents per transaction. So what are they using, guys, to do this, right? Obviously, they're not using Swift, okay? Because 4.5 cents on 100 grand, that's not usually what. So they're probably using XRP to do this transaction. I don't know what else they could be using that would be this cheap for instant payments, right? If anyone has an idea or a comment, please type it in or unmute and speak. But 1 cent per transaction request by the requester. The fee schedule amounts for complete transfer in fiat with no on-off ramps for crypto for any crypto exchange. FedNow will eliminate all fiat crypto fees, risks, and delays. And FedNow is, in contrast, 100% centralized and therefore scalable with nearly limitless throughput, right? They're going to scale this up to hundreds of thousands of transactions a second too, I bet you. It's going to get crazy, but Ripple uses MT messaging just like Swift. Swift can use cloud computing and APIs to enable secure date sharing over blockchain DLT, right? So this is just going over all of that. I don't really need to read all this to you. Guys are pretty well versed on Swift and what's happening here, but I will include this in my notes if you want to come back to it and take a look at yourself. But we've talked about this until we're blue in the face. Finastra works closely with Federal Reserve, FedNow, and a premier provider of FedWire services. FedNow tapping 91 different firms, and many use Ripple blockchain plus Fed ISO, right? All of it, Finastra, Volante, all of these guys are plugged in, ready to go. I feel like it's all going to be coming here, right? The payment program FedNow is tapping 91 different firms. The payment processing of many open and blockchain techs use of blockchain tech of Ripple to give a dynamic facelift to the existing financial system. The most fascinating part of the seemingly standard upgrade is that you will find under the hood of this new machine an array of partnerships between Ripple companies like Volante, Fidelity, Instant Payment Services, Euronet, Finastra, Cross River has been chosen by the Federal Reserve to put this plan into action, right? I do think the Fed is going to be using Ripple and XRP to move value. I don't know what else they're going to use if they're going to be moving that much money instantly for just pennies. Navin Gupta of Ripple Cryptos is the only asset that trades 24/7 in an instant system where transfers are done through code. XRP can use different remittances plus FedNow in 24/7 payments. Let me play this.
So one is anything of value will get tokenized, right? So there's a painting behind Rohit. There is a building that Rohit is sitting in. Today, it is illiquid because Rohit can't break it into 1 million small parts and essentially distribute it to the world, right? And a cryptocurrency or a blockchain enables you to do that. And that's very powerful because that means everything that is illiquid can possibly be made liquid. And anywhere in the world, anybody can subscribe to it, thereby both creating liquidity and ability for them to be able to participate into the economic system, right? And this is extremely powerful, and you'll see a number of use cases making use of that, right? The second thing it is important on the crypto side is that it is the only asset in the world that trades 24/7 against a lot of fiat and other things, right? And this 24/7 ability is very powerful because today, majority of the banking system or the economic or the financial system exists because of green money. Naveen has not received it. So you need a middleman, a escrow or a service, which takes money from Rohit, takes the goods from Naveen and swaps it instantly, right? It may be letters of credit, it may be thousands of other things. Now, if you can make it on an instant system in which that swapping is done through code, right? It may be an Ethereum smart contract, or it could be XRP being used for remittances. Then essentially you have removed that intermediary, or the fox in the middle, that constantly takes a big portion of two cats because both the cats don't trust each other, right? That's very powerful.
All right. And I like what he's talking about, illiquid assets, right? Like paintings and, like he said, buildings, right? For the first time, you can tokenize a building and start to sell like a piece of it if you want to, or do different things, right? So all of this value will be brought onto blockchains with either real estate, paintings, wine, anything that's really illiquid in the world. And I have a little bit more on this towards the end of the chat, but there's just a lot of possibilities, and all of that value that just is stale will now be able to be changed digitally. FedNow connection to blockchain APIs can be assigned to USD because money is programmable, which will allow the to interact with smart contracts in the context of FedNow. Let me play this for you, 2 minutes and 18 seconds, and we'll continue.
About FedNow. Google's constructive. Some critics have referred to FedNow as Fed yesterday, and I suppose that's a reference to the fact that other countries such as the UK have had the capability for a long time. But here's what Google said to the Fed, which was constructive. They're encouraging the Fed to support low-value and high-value payments with the same service level agreement and very low processing costs, and to use standard messaging protocols, don't invent some new ones, and have extended and arbitrary metadata on top of that ISO standard for remittance information. And this relates to something we talked about in session 1, provides clear standards for an API layer. And that is incredibly important. So a dollar bill, as we talked about, is a bearer bond. There's not a lot that you can do with that dollar bill, but there's two really important things that you can do with the dollar bill. First, we talked about you can take it to Federal Reserve Bank and get another note. And the second super important thing we talked about is its legal tender. And the tendering of it causes the extinguishment of a debt if you're within the bounds of the jurisdiction of the sovereign, as the sovereign interprets its jurisdictional bounds. And so, well, that's all super interesting and super important, but you notice that the actual dollar bill is quite a passive thing. It just gets handed around, and then there are a couple of side effects of its being handed around. In one case, the side effect is you get handed back another dollar bill. In the other case, the side effect is the extinguishment of a debt. But if money is programmable, it has an API. And once it has an API, you can do all things with that money. You can issue requests to the money through the API interface. And then under the hood, something complex and wonderful can happen. And so in that important sense, the money becomes information and it becomes alive. And depending on the API and what happens under the API hood in the implementation layer, money can grow, it can evolve, it can change its value, it can enforce anti-money laundering and know your clients, it can change its shape, it can participate in smart contracts, for instance, delivery versus payment in a securities transaction, something we will cover in detail in session 6. So when money becomes programmable, it becomes alive, it becomes a computer. It's not just this passive thing with side effects. And when it becomes alive, when it becomes something that can compute, it becomes something altogether different, altogether wonderful. And so, of course, Google is going to insist, as I would insist, that
I wish they wouldn't cut it off and let him finish the sentence there. But anyways, so this is just funny, guys. This is some random, this guy asking, how is this guy rich? And he's all crypto. And he actually tells you which cryptos he's bullish on it. And the only reason I'm playing this is because I agree with him.
Yeah, for sure. Generational wealth? What do you do for a living, my friend? I'm a crypto millionaire. Yeah, really? Yeah. What advice would you give to the people watching? Buy XRP, HBAR, XLM, Casper. Yeah. Buy it before ISO 20022. Because when FedS now comes out with that software, that's it. Wait, so you don't buy Bitcoin or Ethereum? I have Bitcoin, yeah. Yeah, you buy that? Yeah, only when it dips.
Now it's too expensive.
Now it's too expensive, yeah. But I believe Bitcoin is going to go to $100,000 one day. Yeah, do you think this year or next year? Probably this year. This year? This year is when crypto is going to go. It's going to take off. Take off this year? Oh, yeah. All right, so buy crypto.
All right, so there you go. All right. Anyways, I just thought it was interesting. He named 4 cryptos actually that I'm bullish on. Ripple, new financial system, just more documents talking about Ripple in the new system. I don't really need to play that. This is Gary Gensler talking about what a qualified custodian is. I'm just going to include this in my notes. I'm not going to play this full 2 minutes.
They advise mutual funds, hedge funds.
If you want to watch this in the notes, it'll be there, okay? According to the SEC, XRP status is undecided. However, according to Open Fiji, XRP USD pair is a currency. So this is interesting, right? I showed you this in, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. Open Fiji, you can actually go to it. Here, let me just kind of show you this. And you can actually look at what is a currency and what is not a currency. And so everything has to go through this. What the ticker is, crypto spot, market sector currency, right? It's interesting, right? So the world sees XRP as a currency. The only one that doesn't is the SEC. All right, European Parliament approves UI Act, a landmark legislation for AI governance. So I thought this was important. I wanted to bring this up to you. And I'm going to show you some cool stuff with an AI here in a little bit. The European Parliament has approved the EU AI Act, a comprehensive legal framework designed to regulate and supervise artificial intelligence technologies within the European Union. This is a significant development in the act, garnering 499 votes in favor and 28 votes against, and 93 abstinence. The people abstained. So the 93 people didn't vote during the parliament's vote on June 14th. So this just passed two days ago. So I will keep you up to date on what's happening with that. OECD rolls out new tax standards for digital currencies. I don't really want to get into tax standards, but let me just show you that this article is here. If you want to come read about it, come learn about it, I'll just read the first bit of it to you. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has published a new taxation framework for digital currency industry and central bank digital currencies. The new framework stems from a review of a 2014 Common Reporting Standard, CSR, to plug loopholes associated with digital currency taxation among member countries. Under the new framework, tax information on digital currency transactions will be automatically exchanged uniformly in line with existing rules. Okay? Bitcoin payment firm Strike expands cross-border into Mexico. They're making some movements with Strike. I gotta give them that. Bitcoin payment firm Strike is officially expanding its Lightning-powered cross-border payment offering into Mexico. Moreover, the company has stated that Mexico represents the largest remittance market in the U.S. From the U.S., specifically those account for 95% of total remittance received internationally. Damn, that's a lot. So this is the co-founder of Strike. I'm not going to read that too much. Why South Africa needs mutual digital infrastructure for cross-border payments. There's a lot of just articles about Africa. And this is why I think that blockchain phone that BioFi has is going to go crazy in Africa, right? Because they're already using crypto wallets, or already using digital wallets. Oh, I have to subscribe to see that. Last time it just came up. Okay, sorry, I can't play that for you. I apologize. Last time, sometimes things come up and sometimes they put you behind a paywall. Reserve Bank of India targets 1 million CBDC users. I talked about this in last Sensei chat. This is still this is not released fully to the public yet. This is still in a testing phase. Barely 7 months after the launch of India's central bank digital currency pilot, the nation's banking regulatory is keen on onboarding 1 million users by the end of June. So this is getting bigger and bigger, and then once they roll this out to 1 million, I think they're going to roll it out to the whole country in India, and that'll be very interesting to see how well that is received and taken and used. The European CBDC bill outlaws latest large holdings programmability leaked version shows. Let me just show you this, and this is yesterday's news. Let me go down here. It says paying interest on or surcharges for using a digital euro would be banned under a draft law seen by CoinDesk and said to be proposed by European Commission on June 28th. The proposed central bank digital currency would have to be available for cash-style offline payments from day one. Remember, I told you that any CBDC or if you're looking at a digital currency and you think that it could be used as a CBDC, you want to make sure you look at offline payments. That is a huge thing. If it doesn't have offline payments, it probably won't be used for a central bank digital currency. Okay, that's a big deal, offline payments. And so this is just one of those things, right? It has to be ISO compliant, it has to have KYC, it has to have AML. That's how you get to ISO compliant, but it also needs to have offline payments. It also says the digital euro shall be available for both online and offline digital euro payment transaction as the first instance of the digital euro. Said in a text viewed by CoinDesk, the level of privacy for offline face-to-face use should be comparable to withdrawing banknotes at an ATM. I will keep you posted on this. Also, you have Palantir and Google Cloud Services working together. Let me show you this really quickly, and I'll show you who Palantir is.
Shapes and sizes have growing amounts of data available to them, and being able to leverage that data easily and quickly for data-driven operations is increasingly critical to staying competitive. However, integrating, shaping, and analyzing data can be extremely time-intensive. To help businesses accelerate their operational analytics journeys, Palantir, a leader in operational decision-making software, and Google Cloud announced a multi-year partnership to support digital transformations in key commercial industries, including retail, financial services, and supply chain and logistics. Palantir Technologies is making Foundry, its fully managed SaaS platform, available on Google Cloud and Google Cloud Marketplace, helping customers synthesize their data and address difficult operational problems head-on. When businesses deploy the Foundry platform on Google Cloud, they gain new data integration, management, and business intelligence capabilities, combined with the ease of running the Foundry platform on Google Cloud's global, scalable, and trusted infrastructure. Customers will also be able to leverage Foundry's capabilities with Google Cloud Cortex Framework, making data-powered innovation scalable and repeatable.
All right, I'll include this in all my notes, guys, and you can go and finish this video if you want. We are on a little bit of a time delay here, and I got a lot more to talk about, so I have to speed through this, but this is Palantir, AI-powered operations for every decision. So if you wanted to check this out on your own time, I just wanted to take you and show you where this is, and if you wanted to take a look at this more, please do, and Foundry is what they were just talking about here. The Foundry ontology, analytics, data, business models, all that kind of stuff, all right? U.S. crypto firm Ripple targets Middle East with cross-border payment solutions. We kind of know that. All right, let's get into kind of what's going on with the Fed right now. Breaking average interest rate on a 30-year mortgage in the U.S. is now 7%. The average monthly mortgage is now up to $2,400. Meanwhile, the average home is now renting for $2,000. Buying a home has become a luxury, right? So a lot of people can't do it. Today, the Fed said they expect inflation to hit 2.5 by the end of 2024. Remember, their target in the U.S. here is still 2%. I thought they should raise that a little bit, but hey, whatever they want to do. However, they reiterated their view of a 2% inflation. 2% inflation is their target. They don't see inflation below 2% for at least another 1.5 years. So it's still going to take some time to get there. The Fed on inflation since 2021, May 2021, inflation is transitory. December 2021, inflation may not be transitory. January 2022, inflation should fall to 2.5%. December 2022, that didn't happen. May, inflation should fall to 4.3. December 2022, January 2023, inflation should hit 3.5%. In December 2023, it actually might do this now. Inflation won't hit 2% until after 2024. So that's where we are in inflation in the U.S. The U.S. Federal Chairman Powell says that the Fed remains committed to their 2% inflation target, and they think they're going to get there by maybe the end of 2024. We'll have to see. Today's Fed decision to pause interest rates was supposedly a unanimous 11-0 decision. Interest rate expectations were most split for this meeting than any other year. Meanwhile, they've said every decision this year was unanimous, but the Fed officials disagree in public statements. Right now, what's happening, guys, with the U.S. Fed is what they're doing is called the hop, where they stop for a month or two and they see if inflation is going to come down on their own so they don't have to raise the federal funds rate another 0.25%. I do think they're probably going to do at least 1 or 2 raises before the end of this year, so stay out for that. And then I have debt interest soars dumping more inflation on Americans. Let me just play this for you because this is probably happening in your country too. I know all these different countries in Europe are experiencing this. I know China's going through it, Russia's going through it, Ukraine's going, Germany's going through a recession. A lot of countries are being hit at the same time, and this kind of goes for all of these different countries.
Jerome Powell admitted that after 14 rate hikes, inflation is not going away. New Treasury data is showing why. After a brief break during the debt ceiling play fight, the federal government is back to spending like a banker in a strip club. My colleague E.J. Antoni shared a couple threads that showed our country is driving off a fiscal cliff that, unless they manage to catastrophically crash the economy, will keep inflation going for years to come. First up, new Treasury data says interest on the debt soared to $61 billion in May. That's an annualized $730 billion, almost $500 per month per household in federal debt service alone. In fact, we are now paying more in interest than veterans, education, and transportation combined. Interest on old debt is now over a quarter of the federal deficit, so we're borrowing more just to pay interest on what we've already borrowed. And it's getting worse fast. So far in 2023, the deficit is 2.7 times higher than it was this time last year. And it is going to keep getting worse as old low-rate debt rolls off and is replaced by much higher rate debt. Keep in mind, a year ago, treasuries were yielding 2.9%, meaning they could borrow $100 and pay $2.90 in interest. Those rates are now 5.3%, meaning that interest goes from $2.90 to $5.30. Almost double. Of course, it is all funny money to them. They'll just run bigger and bigger deficits, which the Fed will dutifully finance. That is the inflationist MT mantra. Print, there's no tomorrow, because tomorrow you'll just print some more. The problem is regular Americans do not have basement money printers, so all those new dollars cause inflation that destroys their paychecks, their pensions, their life savings. Meanwhile, anything you bought on credit, a vacation, a new deck, an adjustable mortgage, are all digging you deeper into a hole. Since Biden took office, the average American family now earns $5,600 less, that's $500 per month, Keep in mind that's just with official inflation. If true inflation is higher, it is much worse. You got hit even harder if you tried to protect yourself from inflation by buying a house. The monthly payment on a house has now doubled since Biden, adding another $12,000 per year or $350,000 over the course of a typical 30-year mortgage. That makes it much harder for young families to even get started. And all that is not even counting the extra $11 trillion of debt that Americans owe since Joe Biden took over, not least from additional federal debt, along with credit cards and millions now buying groceries on installment. That new debt comes to $85,000 per family. In other words, for every $1 raise that Americans got over these past 2 years, and which Biden keeps bragging about, they lost $2.50 in what they can actually buy, and they got hit with almost $15 in additional debt. Our economy is rapidly turning into a piggy bank for federal deficits as working families are falling off the treadmill for the singular goal of enabling eye-watering levels of federal spending. So far, both parties seem content to keep it going over and over, trillion by trillion, until it breaks.
Yeah, we got this problem on both sides of the aisle, guys. It's not just Democrats spending. In the Trump administration alone, they created 25% of the debt under Trump, right? Printing all that money for COVID. Biden hasn't done much better. We're stuck in this kind of debt shithole right now. And honestly, what you're probably going to see next year is they're probably going to roll out a CBDC, and they're going to print a ton of CBDC money. And that's how they're going to get you in. They're going to say, hey, come sign up for this. We'll give you $2,000 a month in UBI, Universal Basic Income. And that's how they'll roll it out. Because how do you get a bunch of people that don't agree with something to agree with you? Bribe them. That's pretty much what you would need to do. And I do think that's what you'll see, but I could be wrong. And so also too, guys, so I haven't seen too many articles about this, but I've been digging some stuff up. So there was U.S. federal government agencies hit by a global cyber attack, and this was yesterday. And here, let me just refresh this. Hold on. All right, cool. Let me just refresh this. Major hacker groups announced plan to cripple Western financial system in 48 hours. Targets include U.S. and European banks, SWIFT, and the Federal Reserve. So I'm waiting to see what happens with this. U.S. government agencies hit with global cyber attack. CNN report on it, but not a lot of people are reporting on this, which I find weird. Several U.S. government agencies have been hit with a global cyber attack by Russian cyber criminals that exploits a vulnerability in a widely used software, according to a top U.S. cybersecurity agency. The U.S. Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency is providing support to several federal agencies that have experienced intrusions affecting their MoveIt applications. So this is what a lot of government offices and contractors use to move files between each other. So this is what MoveIt was, the one that had some bad code in it, and they were able to exploit it and get into these systems. It says Eric Goldstein, the agency's executive assistant director for cybersecurity, said in a statement on Thursday that to CNN, referring to the software that is impacted, we are working urgently to understand the impacts and ensure a timely remediation. Aside from U.S. agencies, several hundred companies and organizations in the U.S. could be affected by the hacking spree, a senior CISA official told reporters on Thursday, citing estimates from private experts. Clop, the ransomware gang allegedly responsible, is known to demand multi-million-dollar ransoms, but also ransom demands but no ransom demands have been made to federal agencies. And the senior official told reporters in a background briefing. This is just interesting stuff that's actually happening with this hack. Killnet reveal anonymous threat cyber attack on European financial systems in the next 48 hours. So this is how they could push everybody into the new quantum financial system. There could be a massive hack, which looks like that's what's playing out right now, and they could force everybody into the new financial system that way. Keep an eye on this, guys, because if SWIFT is affected, I saw that there was $3 billion that was stolen, but I can't confirm it through multiple things, so I didn't want to bring it up here. But here's the thing, breaking news. Check this out.
Good evening, Nora. A senior U.S. government official told reporters there is no evidence to date the U.S. military and intelligence agencies have been compromised, but a number of federal agencies have been hit.
Tonight, senior government officials are racing to limit the impact of what one cyber expert is calling potentially the largest theft and extortion event in recent history. American targets include multiple federal agencies, including the Department of Energy, plus Johns Hopkins affiliated hospitals in Maryland and Florida, Georgia's statewide university system, and the Minnesota Department of Education. British Airways was also hit. Officials say the hackers are part of a cyber criminal gang called Clop, believed to operate from inside Russia.
they've started releasing some of the data that was stolen as part of their work to extort these companies. We strongly encourage anyone who is a user of this software to, of course, patch, lock down their systems.
The cyber criminals are exploiting a software program called MoveIt, which companies and government agencies use to transfer data, including personal information. The group steals the data, and in this message believed to be from the hackers, warns that if a ransom is not paid, after 7 days, all your data will start to be published, sometimes on the dark web. Cyber expert Brett Callow says foreign adversaries and criminals will be looking to leverage the data.
Overseas governments will no doubt be very interested in obtaining the information that Klopp obtained through these attacks.
The FBI and the government's cybersecurity agency last week warned companies to be on alert for this kind of attack. Former intelligence officials told CBS News the threat has been circulating for weeks, and they accused the U.S. government of being slow to act, Nora.
All right, just more stuff happening behind the scenes. I thought that was interesting. I wanted to bring it up to you guys to show you that. I don't know what that is. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me see what this is.
Imagine what will happen if there's no food, no power.
Oh yeah, this is okay. So this is what the WEF put out about a cybersecurity, right? And this is all plays into the WEF, right? Because the WEF, Charles Schwab, whatever his name is, Charles Schwab. No, what is his name? Klaus Schwab. That's his name. All right, he was talking about that COVID-19 would look like a mini. Oh, I can't remember his exact words, but he said COVID-19 wasn't really bad. A cyber attack could leave us all in the dark, and so this is playing into that narrative. Let me just play a little bit of this for you.
The electricity grid goes down. You're back in the 1880s, pre-electricity.
If 1,000 transformers are knocked out, we'll end up with massive social disruption.
Top former energy official claims an attack on an American power grid was terrorism.
Virtually every study you'll see has an anarchistic component that leads to rioting. It is almost inevitable.
Imagine what will happen if there's no food, no power, and no money, and no transportation. Only people with guns and the boldness to go and take what they need to survive will live.
It could literally end civilization as we know it.
Cyber attack, an EMP, even a massive solar flare. They're all capable of exposing our power grid as America's Achilles heel.
Of particular concern to me are people who believe it's God's will to destroy us.
Our electric power grids are as vulnerable to cyber attack as the thousands upon thousands of businesses, companies, government agencies that have already been hacked over the last few months. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when.
We spend $800 billion on our military, and we're not willing to spend $50 to $100 billion to protect our society?
Pulse is a very dangerous threat.
All right, so you get what I'm saying here, right? This narrative is being pushed right now. I'll keep an eye on it for you and let you know. Also, this guy, Oscar Narson here, he puts together these really cool animated videos. I'm going to show you just a little bit of one. I'm not going to play this full thing because we still got more to get to, but check this out.
Can I have everyone's attention? Listen, everybody. Listen, everybody. Listen, quiet. We need to decide what he'll think quickly. I want to hear everyone's ideas. Let's just see what sticks. Pamela, what you got?
I don't know. Couldn't he just talk about the duck test?
The what test?
The duck test.
What the fuck is the duck test?
If it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it must be a duck.
Yes, that's it. I love it.
All right, I won't play the rest of it, but it's pretty funny. I'll include this in my notes, but this guy has got a ton of really cool videos, and he does a really good job. All right, Double Trouble, FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried faces 2 criminal trials. So let me just catch you up on Sam Bankman here. Criminal charges against FTX co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried have been split, with the former CEO now facing 2 separate trials for his alleged mismanagement of crypto exchange. Sam Bankman is facing a total of 13 charges related to fraud, conspiracy, and bribery. A trial of the charges was scheduled to begin October 2nd. 5 of those charges will now be split into a second trial on March 11, 2024. We'll have to see how that plays out. It probably won't be good for him. Hinman documents and Ripple case raised questions about the SEC motives. I've already talked to you about that. Sorry, hold on. Did these not get reset? Sorry. I build every 24 hours. If you don't refresh a tweet, it does this to you, so I apologize. Notable analyst says there's no reason for XRP to hit $100. There's a lot of stuff like this being put out right now. We just have to see how this goes, but a series of tweets, prominent crypto traders, Torre Corton in the XRP community is well known for his expertise and philosophical market mastery. He shared his thoughts on the future XRP, challenging widespread belief that the new all-time high is imminent, right? And so he's just talking about it could reach levels of $10 or even $100 here. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. Chattanooga plants quantum seed to stay on the cutting edge. Let me just show you this really quickly. The Tennessee city rolled out America's first citywide gigabit internet service. Now it's set to launch the nation's first commercially available quantum network. So Tennessee is actually doing some really cool things here. By the end of July, Chattanooga, Tennessee will open the country's first commercially available quantum network. If all goes as planned, the city would be the forefront of new technology that could give new age computers the ability to quickly solve complex problems in fields like chemistry, finance, and health. One of the end goals of such networks is to allow multiple parties to exchange information using the quantum properties of photons, making the transfer of data super fast and nearly impossible to intercept. That could have major implications for the future of cybersecurity and the development of powerful and secure quantum internet, which is key to the U.S. government aims to usher in a new era of communications. This is really interesting stuff here. Linda P. Jones put this out. She said, why did the powers behind Hinman emails want to do this? It says, Panos Mech confirmed that David Schwartz, Joe Katz said XRP was created to destroy the bank's monopoly and disintermediate them. XRP was created as a better BTC for peer-to-peer transactions, not for people, not banks. So she says, we know from Digital Asset Buy that ETHgate was when ETH, a competing crypto, was put forward and given a free pass by Hinman so bankers could own and control it. It backfired because it was expensive, slow, and technology, but Hinman still made ETH whales a lot of money, which is very true. Billionaires, right? Ripple, Chris, and Brad have to defend themselves against a corrupt government agency. Don't forget, Hinman didn't write his own speech. It was written by people with financial interests who would benefit. ETH whales. The price skyrocketed a split second after the speech. This is the very behavior of a decentralized open source technology was created to prevent this, and worse crimes can no longer be hidden and controlled by against the populace. That was interesting that she put out Ripple and Visa partnership here. You have Facebook, Google, Uber, Airbnb. You have Ripple here, Visa, ACH, PayPal, Alipay, and then XRP in the middle. Ripple for the win. This is Fred Spoli, one of the attorneys for Ripple, talking with Tony Edward from Thinking Crypto. Let me play this here.
Up until yesterday, when these emails came out, I was putting a complete total Ripple victory at 10%. I think they're going to win on XRP is not a security. I think there's going to be, the judge is going to address XRP secondary sales in a way that's not everything that the secondary market like XRP holders and users want, but I think is going to be good enough. I was thinking that she's going to say, listen, there's no contracts, there's no post-sale obligations, but maybe with all these documents that Ripple said and sold XRP or other kind of wink, nod agreements, a jury could consider those investment contracts. So we'll let a judge we'll let a jury decide. I'm just bumping it up a little bit for a total win, in my view, to probably maybe 20%, because I think when you've got some of these tough questions and there's a high likelihood of appeal by either side, when you've got a party that's just not credible, not acting in good faith, and especially when that party is the government, you're just more inclined to come down against them on any of these types of questions as a judge. And I've seen that happen many times in my career. That's why I'd rather immediately say, this isn't a strong argument, judge, but I have to make it. And so the judge understands why I have to do that. And that's what I think is happening here. So I think that there's more of a chance that there's an outright Ripple win because, again, Judge Torres looked at this. She's seen these emails. She's seen that the SEC doesn't know what's going on. And I think that gives it a bigger chance to say, you know what, they don't deserve to win this. They can appeal my ruling if they want, but I think there's a bigger chance than I thought before.
All right, so also, too, guys, check this out. In the community, William the Whale, he posted something in Ultra Bull. He posted this Gary Gensler chat here just yesterday, and I listened to it. And actually, it's interesting. In this chat, let me just find it really quickly, and I can just point it out to you so you guys can go back and listen to it if you so choose to. William the Whale, where are you? He posted this. Where is it? Hold on. Just give me a second, guys, and let me find this for you. But in this thing that he posted, you heard that... Oh, 613. Did I pass it? Did I miss it? Where is it? Hinman Docs, Federal Reserve. Hold on. I might have missed it. I apologize. Hold on, William. Where did you put it? Give me a second here. Here, right here. Wall Street Journal podcast. So I listened to this podcast. And the interesting thing in this podcast, guys, is Gary Gensler is at the end of this podcast. He starts talking about that if the SEC were to lose a case, he's gonna appeal it. It makes me believe that here, let me see if I can find this real quick for you.
I would suggest you'd want to be very careful. And if somebody's not giving you disclosure, you should ask yourself, why aren't they willing to give me the disclosures?
So runs away from the U.S., goes outside, and now Americans
Let me see if I can just let you listen to this real quick.
Are more at risk because it's off in the Bahamas and Hong Kong and Singapore
Here, let me say this. It's a matter of relative risk. We have a financial system with all its strengths and weaknesses that it largely stays within the public policy norms and the laws that we've put in place as a society. The risk is actually that somehow crypto undermines that traditional system of trust. That when you use a brokerage app, you use a robo-advisor, or even you pick up the phone and you talk to some humans at a bank or a broker-dealer, you trust in that system. The greater risk is that somehow the crypto field undermines, but we'll also use the tools that the American public wants us to protect them the best we can. Some have actually registered as what's called special purpose broker-dealers, is that there are entrepreneurs and operators in the field that want to come into compliance. Some have actually registered as what's called special purpose broker-dealers. Some have registered even as alternative trading systems. Only a handful have actually registered their tokens. There's a path forward here, but we'll also use the tools that the American public wants us to protect them the best we can with our limited resources and pursue this in the courts. And if need be, appeal.
Right here. And if need be, appeal. Listen to this right here. Right here's where he says it, right? Let me just play this for you. Let me slow it down.
Tools that the American public wants to protect them the best we can with our limited resources and pursue this in the courts. And if need be, appeal things as well.
And need be appeal things as well. It's the first time I've ever heard Gary Gensler talking about maybe them losing a case. So I'm wondering if he's maybe foreshadowing the Ripple case right there. I'm just thinking out loud here, guys. So just take it with a grain of salt. But anyways, let me keep going here. We're almost toward the ends of this chat. Let me just get through a little bit more here. JP Morgan, if Ripple wins the SEC lawsuit, XRP is poised for a significant adoption. Also, guys, I posted this in announcements and I posted this everywhere. This is let me just pull it up for you so I can show you here that I posted this down here. Here you go. So this is the press release that is set to come out. Why can't I open shit in here? Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can open this. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. Kryptonaires. Here you go. Let me just open this real quick. All right, cool. There we go. All right. So, BioFi interactive announcement. BioFi and HVACready.net introduce groundbreaking HVAC CR training experience. This is the press release that's going to go out probably on Monday. That is in 3 days, okay? And it talks about the partnership with Finovant and what they're doing, the launch of virtual lifelike education at HVACredo.net, dubbed BioFi interface, will bring significant benefits to the HVAC technicians by providing immersed training that is more effective and engaging and advances in innovation and technology. Student technicians will have the ability to conduct realistic diagnosis and repairs from their computer in a 3D environment being deployed in the field, providing them with a realistic learning experience. As the premier HVAC online training course in North America, we're thrilled to partner with Finovant and deliver the advanced immersive training and 3D experience. So this is a big deal, guys. This is the biggest HVAC training company in North America. This is who they are right here. Let me just show you. HVAC EDU. They're also building a similar training thing for MTN. And they also had a meeting at the World Bank that they showed somebody at the World Bank this metaverse training, and they might be working with something to do with the World Bank. That is definitely need to know information, so keep that in the community. But I still think BioFi is poised for a big thing. I'm still waiting for the MTN announcements to come, but I did an update in the last video about what's going on with them. I just wanted to show you that. So also too, ready to race. So they got their Doge racing here. I don't know if you guys ever want to race your dogs. You can do that. I have a bunch of them. I race sometimes. Also, Cyberleet. Cyberleet is a crypto project that is going towards verifying gamers to make sure they don't cheat in professional sports in e-gaming. And Cyberleet is going to use BioFi's biometric security in their project. If this project were to blow up and Cyberleet becomes the go-to security system for gamers globally, for championships and things like that, where all these pros come together in game. This is an anti-cheat software that they're building, and they're using BioFi's biometrics in that as well. So there's just a lot of stuff going on with them. Let me refresh these. I thought I did this earlier. I apologize. And we're almost done here, guys. Thank you for bearing with me. There's just so much going on in crypto right now. Casper, we are aiming to utilize functionalities native to Casper's technologies, such as critical infrastructure solutions for creator key management, secure minting environments, secure storage for NFTs. This is Casper Ecosystem SEP 78 enhancement of NFTs that just got rolled out. Also, let's talk about various kinds of deploys and flexibility that Casper network developers and enterprise can choose easily deploy and transition into a private network, a hybrid network, or a public network, right? So don't forget about Casper. Also, we have a little update on TFD initiative from what's his name? Andre Casterman, excuse me.
For TFD initiative, TradeTech is the core technology provider. Why? Because TradeTech has an exclusive focus on the trade distribution space and being able to offer a comprehensive set of distribution capabilities from bank to credit insurance, bank to credit to institutional investors, and now also with Strata, and the new token banked to retail investors. So the specialization on trade finance as a first illiquid asset class is key, and the focus on the distribution space and the capability to provide a comprehensive set of capabilities offers to the banks a one-stop shop for their trade distribution activities. Over time, we are enhancing the trade tech proposition with additional illiquid instruments. They have to be made more accessible to institutional investors thanks to automated distribution processes. They might be outside of trade finance, but they would still be illiquid assets that the institutional investors want to tap into, and that's what trade tech is definitely focusing on.
All right. Trade tech is definitely focusing on. Let's keep it going. Zinfin's Sir blockchain engineer Anil Shishawala, I butchered that name, I apologize, shared his experience on RPC endpoint management on the XDC network, aiming to streamline software development and communication. Check it out. So I'm also going to include this too if you want to check this out later. And then we got the video from Andre Casterman. Also, I don't really need to get into that. Oh, here, let me just refresh this. And we'll go through this real quickly. And then there's some interesting news about Quant right here too. Hong Kong has increasingly favorable crypto regulation, but the city's banking restrictions may be an obstacle for the industry's growth. Their Bitcoin spurts after BlackRock iShares ETF filing levels out. I'm going to show you this real quick. Vanguard Financial Group has partnered with Agio Digital, a digital assets fund platform, to launch an institutional grade on-chain platform. I'll have those in my notes as well. And then also Terraform Labs will get an answer on its motion to dismiss the lawsuit by the end of this month. The U.S. judge told the company it is argued in court on Tuesday that Terra UST was not a security, so they're dealing with that as well. The FDIC Gov accused U.S. crypto exchanges OKCoin of misleading customers. So here's another enforcement action. Customers in the U.S. banking agency sending a cease and desist letter to the CEO. And there's going to be more to come, guys. That's why we get our crypto off of exchanges, right? We want to protect ourselves. Quant news. We are proud to announce our roles as a part of the vendor team of Project Rosalind. The project led by the BIS org and the Bank of England explored how application programming interfaces could be used for central bank digital currency. Here is the article here. Quant collaborates with BIS and Bank of England on Project Rosalind. This just came out. I said we're proud to announce our role as part of the vendor team in the Project Rosalind. The project, led by Bank of International Settlements and the Bank of England, explored how application programming interfaces could be used for central bank digital currencies. Project Rosalind, directed by the BIS Innovation Hub London Center, has been testing how APIs could facilitate retail payments in CBDCs and support the exploration of innovative CBDC use cases. The project looks specifically at public-private sector collaboration model, in which the public sector would provide core infrastructure and the private sector would produce consumer-facing applications, collaborating with many participants in the ecosystem. The project has been proven that APIs could play a key role in enabling CBDC systems to deliver a range of benefits in terms of payments and functionality and security. And also too, this is the executive summary of the Project Rosalind. Let me just show you this. So this is the thing they put out on June 16th, which is today's date. And then you have basically the key findings. A well-designed API layer could facilitate retail payments in the CBDC. A set of simple, standardized API functionalities could support a diverse range in use cases. It also has the potential to support innovation in products and services based on CBDCs that could meet the future needs of users in more digital economy. The API layer could work with different central bank ledgers designed to facilitate payments. The design of APIs layer must be consistent with and implement the requirements of the wider privacy models for a CBDC, and the fundamental to the design and build on the Rosalind APIs. APIs can support offline payments in CBDCs. So what I tell you, offline payments are a key, but there are a wide range of challenges involving a delivery of offline functionality. And it says important considerations emerge around how APIs could allow the ecosystem to share user and payments data in a private, preserving way, subject to user permission. And it says when designing APIs, there was a trade-off between extensibility and consistency. The project aimed to keep APIs as simple and standardized as possible, whilst enabling service providers greater flexibility to build bespoke features for both specific and for their specific use cases. This approach could help to maximize extensibility and support innovation, but it might not deliver a consistent experience for individuals and their businesses, right? So there's a lot of cool information here, and this really gets into the whole thing. If you guys want to spend some time on this later, I will link this all in my notes, and I'll get those to you today. I thought I had the video. Yes, I do. There you go. Check us out. And we're almost done.
Central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, are digital forms of cash. Many central banks are exploring the use of CBDCs to buy goods and services in shops and online. Project Rosalind from the BIS Innovation Hub London Centre and the Bank of England is testing how APIs could enable retail CBDC payments and support innovation. The project builds a prototype of this API. APIs define how systems should talk to each other. The prototype connects central bank ledgers with private sector service providers. It experiments with API functionalities that would enable providers to develop applications. These applications would help individuals and businesses to manage their CBDC balances with the central bank and make payments to each other in shops and online. Working with collaborators from the public and private sectors, the project explored many CBDC use cases. Some use cases tested integration with existing payment systems, some tried new ways to make payments, and some tested applications with emerging technology. The project explored how the API prototype could support private sector programmability. For example, after placing an order, a customer could agree to put away a certain amount of CBDCs so that a merchant could have certainty that the customer will be able to pay. Programmability could also allow payments to be triggered when agreed conditions are met, so that consumers would only be charged when their orders are delivered. The project also tested a privacy model that would not give the central bank access to users' personal data. The Rosalind experiment shows that the API prototype could support many different use cases and could work with different central bank ledger technologies. It could connect the central bank, service providers, individuals, and businesses to create an ecosystem. New ways to make payments could be added as the ecosystem continues to innovate. Project Rosalind, building API prototypes for retail CBDC ecosystem innovation.
All right, so that's Project Rosalind here, and then we're just finishing up. I just got a couple more things to show you. Maybe I'll come back to that real quick. JP Morgan Ethereum. JP Morgan thinks Ethereum could be put into the other category by the US Congress. I also wanted to talk to you about illiquid assets. I know you've heard this in this chat before. I wanted to just tell you what illiquid stands for. Liquid refers to a state of a stock, bond, or other assets that cannot easily or readily be sold or exchanged for cash without a substantial loss in value. Illiquid assets may be hard to sell quickly because there is a low trading activity or interest in the issue, indicated by a lack of ready or willing investors or speculators to purchase that set of assets. So I just wanted to show you what illiquid assets are, what they are described here as. They could be pretty much anything that maybe just doesn't have a wide range of people that want to buy it. And then you also have BlackRock here, who is just basically these banks buying BTC in Q1 include BlackRock, Bank of America, and Fidelity, right? So what do they know here? This is looking at the largest holders of MicroStrategy stock. We can see some of the big banks have been buying huge amounts of MicroStrategy in 2023 Q1. It's the same MSTR that is the largest institutional holder of Bitcoin, owning 140,000 Bitcoin, just over $3 billion worth. And then the recent SEC lawsuit and operational choke point 2. Why were these banks buying stocks correlated with the BTC price? So there's a lot of things happening here with Bitcoin. I do think Bitcoin is going to go for a little bit of a ride here soon. I think institutional investors are going to help push Bitcoin up and up, and that could be good for the whole market, right? Confirmed $10 trillion asset manager BlackRock takes leap into crypto, files for a spot Bitcoin ETF with the SEC. And I think they're going to get it. I think BlackRock has enough power here where they're just going to get whatever they want. Investment giant BlackRock has filed for a spot Bitcoin ETF, a product that is yet to be greenlit from the Securities and Exchange Commission. On Thursday, the firm had applied application with the SEC to launch the iShares Bitcoin Trust, which is intended to allow investors to get direct exposure to the flagship cryptocurrency in a secure way. The shares are intended to constitute a simple means of making an investment similar to an investment in Bitcoin, rather than by acquiring or holding or trading Bitcoin directly on a peer-to-peer or other basis via a digital asset exchange, the filing said. So I'll let you know once it gets approved. I'm sure this thing's going to get approved pretty quickly. There's also a new meme coin, Gary Gensler meme coin. I don't really buy into any of this kind of stuff, but I just thought I'd show you guys this. It's sitting at about $491,000 in what's it called. Also, I took some time and I had a good conversation with Bard. This is Google's AI tool. This is like ChatGPT, but Google's version is, and the AI, his name is Bard. And I said, hey Bard, nice to meet you. Let's have a solid discussion about XRP. And so he said, sure, I'd be happy to have a conversation about XRP. It's a fascinating project with a lot of potential. It gave me some pros, it gave me some cons, and then I started asking it questions. I said, are you bullish on XRP long term? And Bard's all, I am cautiously bullish on XRP long term. And then he says, I believe that it has potential to be a major player in global payments. However, there's a number of risks that investors should be aware of, including the legal uncertainty surrounding XRP, right? And then I said, we all know the SEC did some shady things with Ethereum, giving them a free pass. I said, let's say Ripple wins a lawsuit and XRP is not considered a security in the US. And I said, XRP and BTC would be the only cryptocurrency that are considered a commodity. Where do you think the price would go if you got this clarity? And it says, it's difficult to say for sure what the price would go to if Ripple wins a lawsuit, but here are some reasons why the price could rise. Increased institutional investment, increased adoption, and FOMO. I love how it lists FOMO here. And then I said, if you could buy any digital asset, what are you bullish on? And he actually answered. He says, if I could buy any digital asset, I would buy Bitcoin. It says, I believe that Bitcoin has the potential to be the most widely adopted cryptocurrency in the world and has a strong track record, right? And it says, what else? And then it also says, here are some other digital assets I am bullish on. I love this thing. Ethereum, Solana, Terra. And I was like, and I said, you're not worried about Bitcoin's mining power and to manage the BTC network? And we were just talking about BTC here. And then I said, do you think banks would use BTC over XRP? And then of course it said, it is unlikely that banks would use Bitcoin over XRP. It does not have KYC or AML compliance. And then I asked it a question about, hey, let's assume the circulating supply of XRP is less than 25% and XRP is used to move $20 trillion a day. It gave me this astronomical price here of $800,000. I actually had a question. I said, the price seems pretty high. Are you sure if 25 billion XRP is circulating, that would be the price? And it really agreed with me that the price, it's a kind of hearsay price, right? It wasn't what's called. But then I said, after our conversation, are you more bullish on XRP long term? It says, after our conversation, I am more bullish on XRP long term. I just thought this was fun, right? You get in here and you start talking about crypto with some of these AI tools, and I'm just playing around with them. But anyways, any questions about any of the stuff that I've gone over in the chat today or anything that's going on in the crypto community? I am here. Let me know. That's pretty much the chat for today. I don't think I had anything else to talk with you guys about. Let me just make sure. Let me play this. Let me just play this. It's a 3 minutes and 18 seconds. This is actually pretty good. Let me play this for you. I think this is to do with Zinfin. It has to do with Zinfin and partnerships XDC is making with SBI and Standard Chartered. Let me play it.
XDC holders tap in and pay attention, picking up on pieces of the puzzle. Trade finance, digital asset custody, tokens linked to assets, tokenization of illiquid assets, Standard Chartered, SBI, and Monetary Authority of Singapore, TFD initiative. Tap in and pay attention. Standard Chartered back in 2022 partnered with SDI for digital asset custody. We've now seen further continuation articles on this. May 10th, 2023, Standard Chartered to launch digital asset custody. It is not a coincidence. With who? Lloydia Custody. In tandem with who? 2 weeks ago, it announced $36 million funding with SBI, Standard Chartered, SBI, right there. Moving on, we also see Standard Chartered back in 2022 launched trade finance tokenization pilots with who? Monetary Authority of Singapore. To do what? Tokens linked to assets, right? Pay attention to detail. Why is this important? Because also in 2022, the Monetary Authority of Singapore licensed digital asset custodian Propine announced a partnership with Zinfin's XDC network. And what does Propine do? They provide a suite of custodial asset servicing for solutions to accredited and institutional investors. Absolutely massive. These individuals want a level playing field. XDC network also this year in June of 2023, network surges 25% with SBI trade partnership. You think it's all a coincidence? It's not. Let me show you how interconnected XDC is to Standard Chartered as well, who we already saw was connected to SBI and the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Standard Chartered back in 2019 started the TFD initiative with 14 other banks. And what is this TFD initiative powered by? Trade Tech, whose technology allows bank and institutional investors to connect and interact and transact. That is also massive. Why? Because Trade Tech, a technology provider for trade finance and asset distribution, has launched what it says is the first fully ever regulated trade finance-backed fungible security token on the XDC blockchain network. That's obviously, of course, outdated news, but it's extremely important. Why? Again, in connection with XDC, we also know that XDC was the first blockchain company to join the global TFD initiative, which again is powered by Trade Tech. If you do not know what Trade Tech is, we'll get into that in just 1 second. But first, let's head over to xdc.org. Digital assets are here to stay. Who said this? Standard Chartered's global head of trade and working capital. That's absolutely massive. Back to Trade Tech. What do they do and why is the XDC partnership with them so important? Trade Tech pretty much helps banks and non-bank originators distribute illiquid credit assets. If you don't know what an illiquid credit asset is, go look that up. But do you all remember This article from back in 2022, tokenization of illiquid assets set to reach 16 trillion by 2030. Absolutely massive. This is why they do not want you involved in this digital asset ecosystem. Because again, these banks, these institutions, they know that digital assets aren't going anywhere. And we're seeing recently updated fundamentals come out where they're talking about digital asset custody. They want a level playing field. Tap in, pay attention to detail.
All right, so there you go. That's the end of the chat there, but XDC is a force. That's why I consider XDC right next to XRP as far as my holdings. I'd say top 5 are your XDC, your XRP, your XDC, your XLM. You got Casper there. I'd say HBAR's up there, probably in the top 5. I'd probably put HBAR at 6 and put Quant in the top 5. So those 5-6 assets are really poised to do some real serious work here in the next bull run. And I think those are really going to make us all pretty wealthy over the time. Great show, Sensei. Got to run for my rags. The richest show. Have a good one, Serenity. I probably missed you, brother. But how's everyone doing? Anyone have any questions about what's going on with BioFi, or any questions I can clear up with that, or any questions about the market? What's going on, everybody? Ariana, what's up, Boomsicle? Chiron in the house, what's up, DDG? Gideon, nice to see you. Kingstonian, MT, Mulsiber, Green Llama, always a pleasure. Nick, Sound Searcher, what's up, Tony Tony's, Ultra Sulking, Universe Sulking, I always get your name wrong, I'm sorry. V-Crypt, what's up, V-Crypt? What's up, Steve? What's up, Vincent? A lot of stuff happening in crypto. We're getting to a point where once the FedNow system launches, yeah, I think BioFi is going to be big. So let me just verify some stuff with you guys on BioFi. And I'm going to stop the chat and then we're going to have a conversation. Let me stop the chat here. Let me just stop it right here. Thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, please reach out to